Afternoon, everyone. Afternoon. Well, isn't this nice to be back in front of people again? Nice to see you, although it's quite a sparse crowd. You are the special few that will learn the secrets of the marketplace. Welcome, my name is Mike Ormond. I work in the partner team here at Microsoft. I'm a cloud solution architect, aligned to digital and application innovation, which basically means application development in any normal language. But I have a particular focus on marketplace and how you can sell your solutions through our marketplace. I'm going to do a few slides about why we think the marketplace is important. Normally this would be done by my partner in crime, but he cried off at the last moment, so I've been left in the lurch to do the commercial piece as well as the technical piece. So I shall do my best to position this as best I can. But essentially, we've seen a huge amount of disruption, transformation over the last 2 years as a result of the pandemic, and as everybody has kind of rushed to adjust, both as individuals and as organizations. We've seen a massive amount of change, and we fully anticipate that change is going to continue. That pace of change is unlikely to relent. And as a result, the way that organizations buy their technology, buy solutions, has to change as well. You can't scale the kind of traditional sales model and sales channels that have existed for decades to the sort of pace of change that we're talking about. So increasingly, marketplaces and business-to-business marketplaces are the places that customers go in order to discover and purchase their technology solutions. Now, of course, we have a holistic stack that can do just about anything you want, from the kind of foundations of identity and security through our baseline Azure platform, GitHub, Power Platform, D365, M365, and on top of all of that, we're building our industry clouds to serve the healthcare and the financial services industry, etc. So whatever you want to build, the Microsoft Cloud has something for you in some way to accomplish that. And we see the commercial marketplace as the engine to service that demand and to deliver those solutions to businesses, enterprise customers, SMC customers who want to procure those solutions. Our marketplace is something like, actually this slide is not entirely up to date, but let's say more than 4 million monthly active users. We've got well over 30,000 apps and services published on that marketplace. It really is a marketplace at scale. And one of the things we emphasize is this isn't about the long tail. It's not just about the long tail of customers. Our top customers, and by top customers, I mean our kind of top 10 customers, are buying solutions through the marketplace. I was going to say, what's the FTSE 500 called in the US? I can't remember the name of it now. The top 500, yeah, the top 500 customers in the US, there's something like 95% of those our customers are procuring through our marketplace. It's not just about small customers, it's about large enterprises making agreements through our marketplace. And there's one thing that's driving some of that, and I'll talk about that in a little while. But it's in the interest of both the customers and the publishers to transact those things through our marketplace. We've seen a massive spike in the growth of the marketplace, 71% year-on-year growth, 49% growth in the organizations that are publishing into the marketplace, and a 65% year-on-year growth in terms of the offers that they publish into the marketplace itself. And if you were to peruse the internet at your leisure, you will find case studies these are just some examples of relatively small, and in some cases very small. So Shook IoT was a startup when they sold into a Fortune 50 customer through the Microsoft commercial marketplace, and that opportunity just would not have happened without the enablement of that marketplace. But there's lots of examples where relatively small and some very large ISVs are selling into huge enterprise organizations through the marketplace. So these case studies are all up there for you to peruse if you do a search on them. And just in terms of the reach of the marketplace, so we cover 141 geographies, transact in 17 different currencies. We deal with the tax implications in 52 countries, and we endeavour, we have a published SLA around payouts, but that SLA to the publishers, once that transaction has taken place, happens very quickly within the billing cycle. So there's lots of reasons to kind of engage with the marketplace, and we certainly see it as the direction of travel, and we see it becoming a bigger and bigger part of procurement in organizations moving forward. So the question is, what do you do as a publisher, as an ISV with solutions? How do you get started in the marketplace? I'm going to spend most of my time trying to, I suppose, help you navigate that, because it's not as simple as it may appear on the surface. Our marketplace, and you may have used our marketplace already, but our marketplace has a range of different options for publishing. You can just list things on it, like a storefront. You can publish a trial, which customers can come test things out, but there's no money exchanged as a result. You can publish bring your own license offers, where there's a deployment from the marketplace, but the customer has to bring their own license they attach to it. And what we're going to be talking about this afternoon is transacting on the marketplace, so kind of everything thrown into that transact model, where not only is there a deployment or a provisioning, but also Microsoft collects the money on your behalf, it converts the currencies and all that stuff, and then does a payout to you as a publisher. So just some kind of, I suppose, other interesting aspects of why you may want to use the marketplace to transact. We handle all that awkward billing stuff and collecting payments, and we have all the processes in place to do that. We do take a fee for that, so we take a 3% transaction fee. Wasn't that long ago that the kind of industry standard was 20%, which was not, let's say it was holding back the growth of the marketplace. So I think now we've all settled around the 3% level. One of the advantages from a customer perspective is that they, if they're an Azure customer, already have a billing mechanism in place. So they already pay Microsoft for their Azure bill, and they see these marketplace purchases just appear as another line item on their bill. So they've already got that whole thing established, and this just becomes another purchase that they make through the Azure portal or through Azure Marketplace online presence. That also means there's a simplified vendor approval. Because this is an agency model, they're buying from Microsoft. There are organizations that have, large organizations that have limits on the number of vendors that they will approve. So they might have a limit of 20 vendors they'll buy through. Microsoft will almost certainly be on that list. And for lots of organizations, they've got no chance of getting on that list. But certainly it's common for there to be a lengthy approval process for large enterprises to get approved as a vendor. And because the purchases go through Microsoft, it makes that much more streamlined to get the procurement in place. And then this last one, which sounds a bit ugly, a MAC agreement is a Microsoft Azure commit to consume agreement. Many large enterprise, Microsoft large enterprise customers will buy their Azure with a MAC attached, which means they commit to consume a certain amount of Azure over a period of years, and they get a level of discount for doing that. Now, if they don't decrement that MAC, they are committed to spending it, so it's in their interests to decrement that MAC as quickly as possible. One of the benefits of the marketplace is if you meet certain criteria, then your solution, the total cost of your solution that we sell into those enterprise customers, will decrement their MAC. So not just the Azure costs, but the license costs as well. So we're seeing more and more enterprise customers insisting that the solutions they buy from our Microsoft partners are done through the marketplace so they can decrement their MAC. That's now becoming a common request from our largest enterprise customers. So with all that out of the way, why is it interesting? What's interesting about it? Let's talk about the kind of nuts and bolts of how it works. So some fundamentals. When you go to our marketplace, you will see multiple storefronts. So you can land on this from different places. We have one back-end marketplace, and we have multiple storefronts. So Azure Marketplace, that is a web portal that you may never have been to, but it exists, I can promise you, and it surfaces exactly the same offers as the Azure portal, but to people who aren't necessarily Azure customers, so they can browse those offers even if they don't have an Azure subscription. Azure portal, all of our eligible marketplace solutions will appear in the Azure portal. AppSource, which is our more line of business focused storefront, so designed more for technical decision makers, business decision makers, whereas the Azure Marketplace and Azure Portal, more about components, designed it more, targeted at more technical people, developers, IT pros, etc. And then more recently, we've started to surface in-product marketplace offers. So the most prominent example of this, and the one that's getting a lot of traction, is Teams. So a Teams app has to be free. You can't sell a Teams app or a Teams add-in. What you can do is attach it to a marketplace offer, what we call a SaaS offer in the marketplace. And historically, that's been a bit awkward because the customer will go to the Teams app, acquire it, and then get some sort of message that says they have to go somewhere else to go and buy this thing that is the back end that enables the functionality. Those things are now linked in the store. So if you go into AppSource, to the listing in AppSource, you'll be able to see the Teams app and the associated subscription you need to buy. But more than that, it also gets surfaced directly in Teams. So customers don't even have to leave the Teams experience in order to get the add-in and buy the subscription that's required for that add-in to light up. And that's all done in product in Teams. So these listing things, we refer to those as offers. So in Partner Center, when you create one of these things, you will be creating an offer. And the offer maps to the top level. In this case, I've got UiPath, their enterprise RPA platform. So that top level is the description of what the solution does, the videos and the screenshots and all that stuff about what that solution looks like. Within that offer, there exists a set of plans. And you can see on the right-hand side from the Marketplace portal, there's a tab that shows you the plans that you can purchase. So those plans sit as children of the offer. They exist within the offer. And in this case, we've got a RPA entry pack plan, and we've got a RPA developer plan. Those plans, in this case, are public, so anybody can see them. And one of them has got a free trial attached. I've made that up. I'm not sure that's true in there, but on my plan one, I've stuck a free trial in it. So I can offer functionality for customers to try this before they get converted onto a build plan, onto the same build plan. Not all plans need to be public. We have the notion of both, just to confuse matters, private offers and private plans. So private plans where there are still scenarios you would use them, but a private plan is just one of these things. So it's another plan, but it's hidden from public view. And it is targeted at a designated audience. So depending on the offer type, it might be their tenant ID, it might be billing ID. It really depends on the offer type. There is also now a notion of something called a private offer. So a private plan had the disadvantage that in order to create a new private plan and target it at a specific customer, you had to republish your offer. And republishing the offer requires you to go through certification. And certification, A, takes a little bit of time, and B, has a risk of you failing it, and it's not a straightforward process. So now we have a lightweight version of this called a private offer, where you can make a private offer of an existing public plan available to, again, a limited audience. So I now say, make that plan one, entry pack plan, available to customer A, but do it at a 10% discount, for example, or do it under these special terms and conditions, and make the offer available during this time window, and if they don't accept it, they miss out. So I can time bound it to encourage them to accept the offer quickly. And I can make a number of those private offers available against each of my public plans. The other thing I control within a plan, so I control a number of things. The other thing I control is the geography. So my plan 4 there is only available in the US, and I can set different price points for different geographies. And the other thing, kind of implicit in this I haven't described, is functionality. So I can have different functionality in plan 1 and plan 2, even though they all sit within the auspices of my top level offer. I can have my kind of bronze, silver, and gold, and charge a different price point for each of those and I can make them private and offer a discount, for example, on that. So that's the all-up concept. Offers contain plans. Plans can be public, plans can be private, and made available only to certain institutions. So what types of things can I publish transactably? So I'm really only focusing on transactable things here, but what things can I publish in the marketplace to be transactable? Today, there are 3 offer types that you can transact. There is a virtual machine offer type, the Azure application offer type, and the SaaS offer type. That is it. So you have to choose one of those 3. It's pretty straightforward to make the choice. I say that in the certain knowledge that I have lots of conversations about this all the time, but it is relatively straightforward. If you are hosting it as a SaaS solution or a SaaS-like solution in your tenant, it is a SaaS offer in our parlance. There's no other way to do it. So there's no deployment into the customer's Azure subscription because it's running in your subscription as a publisher. If it deploys and runs in the customer tenant, it has to be one of these 2 things. If it's just a virtual machine image, it's a virtual machine offer. If it's anything else, it's an application offer. If it's anything more than a virtual machine and it deploys in the customer tenant, it has to be an Azure application offer. Now, we have a diagram for this, which is in the documentation. Don't expect you to, I'm not going to go through it. It's in the docs to help kind of navigate this. But frankly, this overcomplicates the situation and often ends up in the have a chat with somebody option at the bottom. There are only 3 options. If it runs in your tenant, it's SaaS. If it's not, it's either VM or Azure application, and only a VM can be a VM. So let's talk about the offer types then. A virtual machine offer is just a generalized image of your solution, probably. I mean, you could tell something else, but probably your solution running, within a generalized VM image. So it's a customized VM image that gets deployed into the customer's tenant. It is, and you're probably familiar with this, pay-as-you-go pricing. So if you've bought a VM on Azure, while it's allocated, you're being billed for it. When it's deallocated, you're not being billed for it. It's exactly the same pricing model for VMs through the marketplace. In fact, this, should probably say this, everything that you buy in Azure is coming through the marketplace. So we kind of think of this distinction about third-party offers and first-party offers, Microsoft offers, anything else. It's all delivered through the marketplace, and they all play effectively by the same rules. I should say there is also the ability now to do reservations in third-party offers. So for a long time, you've been able to do reserved VM instances with first-party offers. But now customers can say, actually, I want to sign up to this for a year. So even though it's pay-as-you-go pricing, it's the same kind of reservation model where you assume it's on 24/7 for a year, and then you give them a discounted price against the usage-based pricing. And it gets deployed into the customer subscription. So fairly straightforward sequence. You start with a base VM image, you apply the latest updates and customize it with your solution. You generalize that VM. You don't have to do this, but this is the normal workflow. You would share that into an Azure Compute Gallery. You would make sure that that can be deployed. You can produce a specialized VM from it. You'd run it through our validation. We offer a validation tool for VM offers and marketplace. You would then create a VM offer in Partner Center and go through the publishing steps. At one point, you will be asked, where is this generalized VM image? And you'll point to the Azure Compute Gallery image that will be shared with Marketplace so that it can be published for people to acquire. In terms of kind of what that looks like from a publishing and acquisition perspective, as I say, you take your generalized VM image, you share that into a compute gallery in your publisher subscription. With Partner Center, you then provision that in Marketplace by pointing to the compute gallery, and then a customer comes in through either the Azure portal or Azure Marketplace. Well, ultimately, it will be through Azure portal to provision that or do it by the CLI or however they want to do it. But you can only publish into the Azure storefronts a VM offer because it needs to be deployed into an Azure subscription. So it ends up one or more of these things deployed into the customer subscription. So you will not see VM offers in AppSource because you don't have to have an Azure subscription to buy things in AppSource. So we disconnect those two things. You have to buy through Azure portal. So if it's not a VM and it gets deployed in the customer subscription, it must be an Azure application offer. What's an Azure application offer? It's effectively an ARM template to describe the services that need to be deployed and how those services talk to one another, and some dependencies. So there might be some scripts, there might be some code, there might be some other assets. There might be another virtual machine offer. So you can connect offers together using an Azure application offer. You can make a dependency on a VM offer that you've previously published. So you can consume that VM offer within the Azure application offer. I'll tell you why that might be interesting in a second. They allow you to compose multiple resource types. You describe it with an ARM template, gets deployed into the customer subscription. But those things you have to package up into a zip file effectively that gets pushed into the marketplace. So the ARM template, the scripts, and all those bits get put into a zip file, uploaded into marketplace. Now this is the complicated bit about Azure application offers. There are two types of Azure application offer. There is a solution template and a managed application. They are closely related, but effectively differ in terms of the way security is applied. So you can think of the left-hand column, the solution template, as being an ARM template deployment that instead of being done through the CLI or through the portal, is done through Marketplace. So Marketplace is going to act as the intermediary and deploy that ARM template into the customer subscription. As a result of that, it's just a normal ARM template deployment. Customer gets full access, the publisher gets no access. It's not directly transactable unless you reference a transactable virtual machine offer, which is why in the previous slide I said you could include a VM offer in it. Because if that VM offer is transactable, then indirectly the customer is consuming that VM offer. It's a bit of an ugly way to make something transactable unless it inherently has VMs in it. Doesn't support metered billing. We haven't talked about metered billing yet. And the customer will pay for Azure services, so whatever is provisioned in their subscription, and potentially the cost of those VM offers that are embedded in the template. A managed application, on the other hand, is still an ARM template deployment, but the security is quite different. It gets deployed into a resource group that the customer has virtually no access to. They can see what's in that resource group, but they cannot interact with it in any way. If you've ever deployed AKS is a type of managed application, but they've expanded out some of the access you have. But you get these two resource groups. You get an application resource group and a managed resource group. In this case, the customer can't interact with it. The partner, though, the publisher, has full access. So they have a responsibility to manage that application going forwards. If there's a problem, it's going to be down to the publisher. If you want to do an update, it's going to be down to the publisher because only they have access to the resource group. It's fully transactable. It supports metered billing. The customer pays for the services that get deployed. The management fee, so that transactability is a recognition that the publisher has a responsibility to manage that application on the customer's behalf, and any metered billing costs. So metered billing, as we haven't talked about it, is a flexible mechanism of defining a set of dimensions, as we call them, that can be reported by the application for us, Microsoft, to bill against. So number of emails sent is a classic example of a kind of bulk email system. 1,000 for free, and then for every 100 after that, it costs $1, or whatever it might be. You just report back through an API to Microsoft, and we will bill the customer appropriately. So it gives you a very flexible way to design a billing approach. In terms of publishing, you create an ARM template. You create a UI definition. So when you provision this thing in the portal, and again, if you've used Azure, you'll have used the portal. You get asked a set of questions as part of the provisioning process. As the publisher, you describe those questions in the UI definition. You package all that up with any dependencies into a zip file, test that and validate it, make sure it works, run it through our ARM validator. Define a security principle if it's a managed application, because you need a security principle to manage the resource group in the customer subscription. Now, that could be a user, could be a service principal, could be a security group, probably most sensible to be a security group of some nature, so that you can get access into the customer subscription. And then create an Azure application offer in Partner Center and publish that. So for a solution template, this is really it is just an ARM template. It's very simple. I take that thing via Partner Center, I push it into Marketplace, customer comes along, finds it in the Azure portal, says, I want one of them, answers a few questions, and it gets provisioned into their subscription in the resource group that they have decided. It's a little bit more complicated for a managed application because of this security model. So the provisioning, the publication is the same. You package it, publish it into Marketplace. When the customer comes along, and again, this has to be through the Azure Marketplace because you need an Azure subscription in order to deploy this thing. Customer comes along and says, I would like one of these. The customer gets 2 resource groups created in their subscription. They get an application resource group, which is just a stub, effectively, that points to the managed resource group. The publisher has a security principal in their tenant that has full access, or at least contributor access, to that managed resource group. And the customer has access to the application resource group, but only read access to the managed resource group. We do support things like just-in-time access, so the customer has some control over when the publisher gets access, but fundamentally that's the security model for a managed application. And then finally, SaaS offers. SaaS offers are really just an onboarding mechanism. There's no deployment involved not from a Microsoft perspective anyway. We don't care whether there's any deployment goes on inside the publisher subscription. So from our perspective, it's really just an onboarding for the customer, and you tell us when the things that need to be done have been done. We also don't care whether it's a true SaaS solution. As long as it looks and feels and smells like a SaaS solution, that's fine with us. If it's an entirely manual onboarding process on your side that involves sending an email to the engineering department to provision this, that's fine. Just tell us when you're done, as long as it's within 30 days. Just tell us when you're done, and we'll start billing the customer. So we really don't care about the inner workings of it, just what it looks like from the outside. It's got very flexible billing models. It supports a flat fee. I hope this isn't on the next slide. It supports a flat fee per user and metered billing in combination with the flat fee. So you can bill per user, you can bill a flat rate, or you can bill a combination of metered billing and flat rate. And it can be automated or manual. What you do need is a landing page, a webhook, and some API integration. So what does that mean? Why do you need these things? When the customer acquires or says they want to acquire your SaaS application via either the app source, so a SaaS application can be an app source, Azure Marketplace, Azure Portal, wherever they're coming from, they get redirected as part of the flow to a page that you own. So the landing page is your property. And when they get redirected there, we provide a token that you can decode using our APIs to figure out who the customer is and what it is they're trying to buy. So we pass you a token so you can figure that out. It is also an opportunity for you to capture all the additional details you need from that customer in order to complete the onboarding process. And at the end of the onboarding process, you tell us via the API that you're done and we can start billing. So that's the API integration. The webhook is the opposite end of the communication. So we might need to tell you something. Something bad might have happened, the customer hasn't paid. Something good might have happened, they might have asked for an upgrade. But we need some way to notify you when an event has occurred on our property that is related to your solution. And just finally, the landing page has to be single sign-on AAD enabled. So when the customer is redirected there from our property, they don't have to go through a different sign-in process. Doesn't affect any of your solution. We don't dictate anything to do with the identity you use on the actual solution itself. Just that landing page has to be AAD enabled. So it's a little bit different in terms of the process for building a SaaS software because you have to do there's some engineering work involved in building a website that has a landing page that can talk to some APIs and that can expose a webhook so that we can talk to you. So there's going to be some sort of website involved in this, and that has to be built. Once you've built and deployed that, when you come to create the SaaS offer in Partner Center, we essentially say, what's the URL that this landing page sits at? What's the webhook URL? and what's the identity of the application that you're going to say is going to call the API so that we know that we can validate, authenticate that application. So from a deployment and provisioning perspective, again, you fill that in Partner Center. There's no package or anything in a SaaS app. You just fill in the details and publish that into Marketplace. Customer comes along either in Azure Marketplace or in App Source, says, I'd like one of those, please. And the flow takes them via your landing page where you collect the details. They end up with a little stub in their subscription if they're buying it via the Azure Marketplace. That's just called a SaaS app. They can delete that, and that's effectively saying, I want to end my subscription. But in your subscription, you have to have this landing page and webhook exposed so that we can contact you and the customer can do that onboarding process. And in the background is might be a multi-tenant SaaS application, might be a single tenant per customer. As I say, we don't really care. We don't dictate that. Quick walkthrough of acquiring a SaaS application then. So this is me in Partner Center on my solution. It's currently in a preview status, so it's not publicly available in the marketplace. It's available to a very limited audience for testing purposes, that audience being me in this case. I've got one plan. This is really just to give you a flavor of what it looks like in Partner Center. I've defined one plan, and it's being billed on that flat rate model. And it's a public plan, so it says their availability public. I've not restricted it. And in that preview process, I get some private links I can go to test the offer. So you can see there's a marketplace link and a Azure portal link there directly within Partner Center. I can also find those things via the Azure portal, which is what I'm about to do here. So if I go into create a resource and see more in Marketplace, I get this little private products link available to me because there are private products available, and that is a mixture of private plans and preview plans. In my case, I've got a bunch of preview plans. So I'm going to deploy this. I can do the full experience, if you like, with the preview offer. I can buy this thing even though it's only in preview. I'm going to just enter the details in the UI about what's required. It's a 1 month commitment in this case for $0. And I'm going to provision this into my subscription. Now, this is the one place in my demos today, because I did a session earlier this morning, where I've edited slightly, because that button takes normally, say, 30 seconds to appear. And I don't want to be standing here talking for 30 seconds waiting for it to appear, and you probably don't want to watch it. So it will take about 5 seconds or so, and then it appears. So it takes a little bit longer than that in reality. This is the stage at which I will now be redirected to the landing page. If the customer doesn't notice that button, they also get an email telling them they need to do something else. And this is my landing page. It's not very exciting. It's really just telling me what the token contains. So the token I mentioned that we passed is up there in the URL, highlighted by my helper. And this page is really just pulling out some of the details that are embedded within that token. This landing page is part of something called the SaaS Accelerator, which is published in GitHub by our commercial marketplace services team, and it's kind of a landing page and the back-end admin portal, which I'm going to in a second. So this is me saying, okay, I like filled in the form, filled in the fields. I want to go ahead and activate this thing. So I should take an action on it in just a second. Oh, sorry, I did that while my back was turned. So I've asked for this solution to go ahead. I've basically, as a customer, said, proceed, I want to buy this. So now, on the admin portal, as a publisher, I get notified and I get to see that somebody has initiated a purchase of my SaaS solution. I have to do all the provisioning, whatever steps I need to take to onboard that customer, and then, in this case, I can just manually activate it, but in reality, I'd probably have some workflow associated with it. I'm going to activate that solution. And when I hit activate, that's going to call the Microsoft SaaS Fulfillment APIs and say, this customer has been onboarded, the service is available, you can start billing them, and we will switch on the billing. And from the customer side, they will now be able to see, I'll switch back to the customer in a second, you'll be able to see that they are subscribed to the service, and that shows up in the Azure portal as well. And you just enable that service for the customer. So we're really, on the Microsoft side, just kind of controlling the workflow of the onboarding process and enabling the billing once you've told us to start billing. So I'll just switch back to the Azure portal. That's now been completed, and I'll be able to see on the SaaS offers, I've got that new SaaS offer that's been created, and I got a green tick subscribed against it. So that's the one that I've just onboarded there. So that's the workflow for acquiring a SaaS offer. What does the publishing process look like? It's pretty, at the top level at least, it's pretty common across the different offer types. Everything is done through Partner Center. If you're a Microsoft partner to date, you'll be familiar with Partner Center. There is a commercial marketplace area in Partner Center for dealing with all of this. You go in there, you create either a VM offer or a SaaS offer or an Azure application offer. You add all the description and the screenshots and the videos and the collateral that's required. You define the plans that are contained within the offer. So what price points are you pitching the different functionality at? Which geographies are you selling it into? Are they private plans? Are they public plans? And then you hit publish. And when you hit publish, it goes over to us. So the Microsoft work is below the line here, and we put your offer through an automated validation process just to check, in the case of a VM, that it complies with some of our technical requirements, or in the case of an Azure application, that the ARM template meets our technical requirements, which are published, and we publish tools to allow you to check those before you put it through in Partner Center. So don't waste time tripping up at that step. Put it through the tools first. If it passes the automated validation, you will get those preview links, and it will be available for a limited audience, which you define, in Azure Portal or App Source or both. So you will get to define an email address or a Azure subscription ID that can be the preview audience for your offer. You then, of course, test that, and that testing will involve deploying it, but it also might involve purchasing it, make sure the purchase flow works and metered billing works, all those types of things work. And when you're happy that the offer represents how you want it to be represented to the customer, you sign that off. It goes into another certification cycle, at which point some eyeballs look at it. There's some human interaction at this point, and we make sure that the offer complies with our certification policies and make sure it does what it says on the tin. And once it passes that certification stage, then it will go live in the marketplace for customers to discover the public plans, and for a limited audience to be able to acquire those private plans if you've included private plans or private offers in there. So I think it's worth just having a quick look in Partner Center to see what the flow looks like. We've got this new Workspaces, relatively new Workspaces UI in Partner Center now. Marketplace offers sits there. If you're signed up to the commercial marketplace program, you'll see that and have access to that tab. I've got a SaaS offer here, which may well be the one that we looked at a second ago. So this is in preview stage, but I'm going to walk through the different tabs on the left-hand side to show you what you need to pull together in order to publish an offer. There's the automated validation stage prior to preview, and then you get to that big go live button when you're happy. So I won't go through every single option because there are a few of them that aren't relevant. But essentially, when you're publishing a transact offer, in the case of a transactable offer, you want to tick the box that says, yes, I would like to sell through Microsoft. The other box basically is just a storefront listing with no transactability. So once you click that yes box, some of these tabs on the left-hand side become available. You can optionally connect your offer to a CRM system or just email you when customers acquire it. It's no longer necessary to do that. You don't have to do that, but it is there as an option. You define the categories into which your solution will be published in the storefronts, and here you define your legal, any amendments, etc. The categories are important because the categories define whether it appears in Azure Marketplace or App Source or both, if it's a SaaS offer. And all the usual sort of things you would expect: contact information for support, contact information for commercials, and the screenshots and icons and all that kind of stuff. Videos if you want to. Here's my preview audience. So these are the testers, effectively, in my solution. So I've got a couple of testers in there, and those individuals will have access to this SaaS software to test it before it gets published in the marketplace. And then here's where I configure my landing page, my webhook, and I provide the identity of the application that allows it to authenticate to the SaaS fulfillment APIs that we host. So landing page URL, connection webhook URL, and which tenant is in and what's its application ID for AAD. Then I get to define my plans. I've only got one plan in my case, but I can have, I think it's up to 30 plans. I give it a name, I give it a description, and within the pricing availability, I can define which markets I'm going to sell this particular plan into. So I might want to price differently in different markets. I might want different functionality in different markets. Do I want a flat rate plan? Do I want a per user plan? And if I'm on a flat rate plan, do I want to bill it with a 1 month commitment or a 1 year commitment, or what's my commitment term, and how do I want all the different kind of billing options that you might expect. Below that is the metering dimensions. So in the marketplace metering service dimensions, I can say I'm going to charge per 1,000 emails sent, or I'm going to charge per gigabyte of data consumed, or however I want to do that. As long as your application can report that to us, we support it. Free trial, 30 days free trial that automatically converts to paid once complete. And here's where I define whether it's a public or a private plan, down at the bottom of that plan visibility. And then the other options, co-sell, you can't complete that until the application is published, but that's where you provide the collateral to allow our sellers in Microsoft to have access to your solution and potentially sell that, co-sell that into customers. And then CSP, I can make that available to any partner in CSP, specific CSPs or no CSPs. Once I've done that, I click the publish button, and it goes through that publication stage to the preview stage. I get the preview links, and I can test it again if I've made changes. So it's now gone back into that cycle. You can see things have been grayed out, and I get an idea of how long it's going to take for each of those steps to occur with the purchase flow setup, test rate validation. So there's probably a couple of hours to wait for that thing to be re-provisioned again, and for me to have access to the preview links. So we've talked about the steps. This slide is to try and give, and it's how long is a piece of string, but it's to try and give an idea of how much effort, time elapsed and effort is involved in doing this. So step one, become a Microsoft partner, get an MPN account, and sign up to the terms and conditions for the commercial marketplace. It's pretty straightforward, but there is a time lag involved because of the validation process. Then create that landing page and the authentication and the webhook in steps 2 and 3. So basically build that site that exposes that functionality. The customer landing page, they're going to be redirected to, the decoding of the token that talks to our APIs, the onboarding process that talks to our APIs, and the webhook that sits and waits for us to call it. That is engineering effort. It's, there is work involved in doing that, and depending on the complexity of your solution, how you want to integrate it with your solution, and the complexity of the things you need to gather as part of that process. That could be, could be a week, could be months. It's very difficult to say. Go through Partner Center, create a new software as a service offer, define your offer ID, specify all the offer details. What we've just been through, it's, if the assets are there, that's a very simple process. It takes a few hours to go through. And then we go through the certification cycle. And testing cycle, and hopefully pass certification, and your offer goes live in the marketplace for customers to acquire. So just kind of recap on some of the areas I've seen confusion in the past. We have effectively we've got 4 different ways of offers being or plans being hidden in the marketplace. We have a preview audience, which is intended for testing. So only the people, as you saw, the couple of email addresses I included on my SaaS offer, the preview audience will be able to acquire that offer in the preview phase. We also have private plans and private offers. They're intended for selling to customers, so that's once your solution is live in the marketplace, but it's to restrict the audience to be able to cut a deal with a particular customer, either at discount price, for example, or with specific terms and conditions. You can do that via a private plan or a private offer. Private offers, there's a slight difference in functionality, but if you can use a private offer, use it. It's much simpler, it's much lighter weight. Fall back on a private plan if you have to. The other thing that's not mentioned here is you can have a hidden offer. And a hidden offer is really intended for the scenario that I talked about in Azure Application Solution Templates, when you build an Azure application that is dependent on a VM offer. You don't really want somebody to be able to go and find that VM offer, or you may not want somebody to be able to go and find that VM offer and buy it, deploy it independently of your Azure application offer. So you can hide the VM offer so that the only way the customer can acquire it is via the Azure application offer. So there's 4 different ways to hide things from public view. Free trials automatically convert to paid offers. So if you offer a free trial 30 days up front, that functionality means that once the customer has been on board for 30 days, if they don't cancel, it will automatically be converted onto the plan that they acquired the free trial on. Certification, we publish a set of certification guidelines or certification requirements. They're not that onerous, surprisingly. If you've ever published into other marketplaces, I speak from experience in our Windows marketplace, our Windows Store, Office Store, and some of the other marketplaces out there, they can be quite specific, quite particular. It's a bit broader in this case, and we do have requirements, but honestly, it's pretty lightweight compared to what you might expect. Do check them well in advance, just in case you're likely to contravene any, and learn that before you start on the journey about what the expectations are. And we do have a standard contract that you can use, and it's great if you can adopt our standard contract. Then typically customers will already have accepted offers on the Microsoft standard contract, so it makes it easier for them to just acquire that offer without going through their legal department. But if the standard contract doesn't work for you, you can adopt the standard contract and some amendments, so you can add amendments into your plans when you publish them, or you can say, I don't want the standard contract, I want to have my own contract, and that's fine. We can accommodate any of those things. They're all good. So just to round things off, there's a number of places you can go to learn more. We run, or our commercial marketplace services team run, office hours sessions. The upcoming ones are at that aka.ms MP office hours link. But what I would say is they've been running these for at least a year, 18 months now, and there is a rich vein of knowledge captured in the on-demand marketplace office hours, that second link. So rather than necessarily having to wait for an upcoming office hour that's specific to your topic, if you want to know about managed applications, then it might be a couple of months. There will almost certainly be one on demand that drills down into Azure applications, managed applications. So those 2 links, very, very good. There is some MS Learn content. It's mainly around SaaS offers and also the customer side of the marketplace. So we talked about everything from a publisher perspective today, but customers, they're quite important. They have some interests in this, particularly their procurement teams. And one of the things we offer, for example, on the customer side is a private marketplace, so they can control the offers that their employees can see within their marketplace. So rather than it being a free-for-all, it's never a free-for-all, but rather than being able to see which all the offers in the marketplace, the customer can restrict the offers that are visible and available. And if an employee wants to acquire a particular thing, it can raise a workflow that says, I'd like to acquire this thing, but it's not on the approved list. But it gives them some governance and control over the offers that are available in there in the Azure portal. Marketplace documentation is very good. However, it's not very good at helping you understand what you need to know. There's no good starting place, is what I would say about the marketplace documentation. So I'm hoping this session acts as a good starting place, and the fact that you know there are 3 transactable offer types, and those transactable offer types, you can figure out which one it is, because if it's a SaaS offer, it goes in your tenant, and that stuff, that really helps, I think, navigate the documentation, because they mix up everything in the documentation, the transactable stuff with the free stuff, with the listings, with the storefront. It's all in there. So it's very comprehensive, but it's quite difficult to navigate. So kind of bear in mind the offer type stuff that I've talked about. And please do review the certification policies. They are published, they're revised regularly, but it is a very good idea to familiarize yourself with those things before embarking on the journey and investing a lot, only to discover that perhaps you weren't aware of some requirement that we had on our side. With that, I've said everything I wanted to say. We do have a few minutes left. I'm happy to take any questions if anybody's got questions, and I do my best to answer them. Yes?
So if I publish an Azure application offer and it's successful, I may have many customers who bought it who are running my app on their own infrastructure. Might include, I don't know, function apps, web apps, logic apps, all sorts of things might be uploaded there. So I could potentially end up with thousands of them out there. Do you offer any help in upgrades?
For an Azure application?
Yeah, so I want to put a new version out there. I might have to upgrade 10,000 pieces of infrastructure.
The marketplace. So sorry, I'll repeat the question in case you didn't hear it. If you publish an Azure application and it's incredibly successful and you end up with thousands of customers, those thousands of customers may have multiple services, so you end up with lots and lots of individual services that may require upgrade on an ongoing basis. Marketplace itself doesn't offer anything, but what you would do is automate that process using some sort of DevOps pipeline, and that identity that you've got. So it would be a managed application if you're transacting it. That security principle that you have allows you to do those in-place upgrades of the.
About the fact that I might have 10,000 installations to upgrade, and I have to put the infrastructure in place.
You do indeed, yes. And sorry, I was going to say that of the application, of the underlying services themselves, again, it's within your want to upgrade those because you have the permissions to do it. But yes, it's down to you. So automation is the key. If you're successful at that scale, automation is the key to be able to manage. Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. It's a nice problem to have. Hopefully, if you're selling it at the right price point, anyway, it's a nice problem to have. Yes.
You mentioned that the Mac, in order to deprecate Mac, you have to qualify to a
Yes.
certain level. So we're actually now transact published, and for the last 2 weeks we've been stuck between the co-sell incentivized, co-sell and co-sell incentivized.
Yep.
How does that work? We're trying to get some understanding of what we need to do to jump to the final. So I believe it's co-sell incentivized you need in order to be Mac.
Yes. Yeah. So I kind of waved away the fact that the requirements for Mac. The requirements for Mac are that the application has to be transactable. It has to be sold at a price point above $0, so it has to accrue money.
It's okay, if we want to make money, we don't.
Yeah, no, and it's a weird one, but it is in there as a requirement. And it has to be IP co-sell, what we call IP co-sell incentivized. IP co-sell incentivized requirements are you need to have I think I'm right in saying $100,000 of trailing 12-month ACR, so Azure consumed revenue. So you have to be driving a significant amount of Azure consumed revenue. The solution has to be, I don't know what the exact definition is, but it has to be greater than 50% repeatable IP on the Azure platform. So if it's a VM or an Azure application offer, it automatically meets that because it's being deployed 100% on Azure. But if it's a SaaS app, you may be using some other services somewhere. So we do an evaluation to make sure you're driving Azure services. And is there one more? I can't remember if there's one more. Keep me honest here. I think that's it. So if you meet those criteria, you should get the IP co-sell flag. Did I?
Co-sell flag.
Did you? Have you?
Yeah. So we've got the flag, and then there's a review tick, which is, and then the last step is, and we don't know how to get that last step.
Did I? I don't think.
Application. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it probably just go for that validation process. But we can't find anything on. Find anything on. On how that process.
Yeah, we've got the collateral. That's been ticked off.
So it might be the 100K trailing 12 months. So it's a fairly, when you go through the progress from left to right on the bar that Mike was showing,
Yeah.
you basically tick everything off. Similarly with the IP co-sell is done in a referral section.
Yeah. That's.
So when you follow that through, it's similar. And there'll be certain things which are gated, so you can't do them until the criteria is met. It should say on there.
It just. Yeah.
If you, we can have a quick look after if you just want to jump into Partner Centre.
Yes, please. Yeah.
I'm not
Yep.
saying put it up
So,
on the
so
screen,
it should happen automatically. What I was going to, I don't know where it's gone, but I had a little rosette on my slide that showed solutions in Azure Marketplace and AppSource that meet the IP co-sell criteria get a little rosette applied to them. So you'll see a preferred solution and a little rosette. If you've got that rosette, you should automatically, if you're transactable, become MAC qualifying and you meet the 50%. Oh no, you met the 50%. Yeah, so if you, yeah, if you met IP co-sell incentivized, you automatically become MAC if you're transactable. If you're not IP co-sell incentivized, we can take a look at where it might have got stuck. Sorry, that was a long-winded answer to that. Unfortunately, it's a long-winded process. Any other questions?
If the certification fails, what happens next?
If certification fails, you'll get some feedback to tell you the reason for failure. You remediate, hopefully, that failure, and you republish the application, and hopefully this time you pass. The feedback I have seen has been pretty clear about the reason for failure. And I would say the failure rate on the commercial marketplace is significantly lower than the kind of, if you publish to the Office store, if you've ever published to the Office store, they're very, very particular about certain UI elements, and they are very particular about cross-platform. It gets very complicated, and you can fail on, it's easy to trip up on lots of things. I would say the feedback is good on the commercial marketplace, and the chances of failure, if you've read the certification guidelines, are lower than you would typically see. Yes?
With the SaaS offer, what happens if we decide that we don't want to pay you 3% anymore and we just engage the customer direct? Is that something that you kick us off the platform for doing?
I suppose it depends upon which route you take to doing that. You can stop selling your SaaS offer via our platform. The customer, though, can continue, if they've previously bought it, they can continue to buy, they can continue to consume it, if you like, they can renew it, but you can stop selling it to new customers, and you can go out and target those new customers yourself. As long as you don't...
If we targeted, we got the customer through the marketplace, and then we have a private arrangement with them to bill them directly, if you like, and not pay you anymore.
Yeah, if you're using our marketplace platform to acquire customers outside of the marketplace, I think you'll find there's a certification requirement that says you must not do that. If we discover that's happening, then yes, we wouldn't look on that kindly. I'm not sure what action we would take, but I think it falls foul of the certification requirements. Last chance.
Do you do any vendor certification? So do you vet us? So a lot of
Yes.
people buying software want to know that you're SOC 2 compliant or ISO 27001 and all that sort of good stuff.
We don't do any of that, well, at least as far as I'm aware, we don't do any of that level of certification for Marketplace, but there is an onboarding process into the the partner program, but the MPN enrollment is effectively about validating that you are a business, you operate as a business, and you are who you say you are. And then I think there's some financial, not evaluation, but you have to provide a mechanism for us to do the payouts, and that has to be validated. But there's nothing of a kind of industry standards type nature that I'm aware of.
If somebody buys through the portal and you invoice and they don't pay it, who gets the bank?
So that's in the documentation, and we will go through. So if we bill the customer and the customer doesn't pay, we will use the routes we have to try and secure payment for the customer. Ultimately, well, two things. One is we will have notified you that the customer isn't paying for you to take whatever action you want. Ultimately, we reserve, I don't know the exact wording, but I think we reserve the right to recover the fees that we've paid out because the customer hasn't paid. Again, I don't know whether we would do that or not, but we reserve the right to do so if we've not been unable to secure payment from the customer. Bang on quality. Oh, hello. Yes?
If you have an API, would it be a SaaS offering to provide an API as a transactable offer?
Yes, you can wrap an API offering. You can wrap as a SaaS offer. Yes, typically, yeah. Because you wouldn't want the customer to deploy that in any way. You just want them to access it. So you control access via SaaS offer. Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much indeed for sticking out to the end. Enjoy the rest of your day. This is the last session, isn't it? Enjoy anything else that happens after this, and I hope you take something away from the session. Thank you very much indeed.